Hello, everybody. Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. Going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of January 6th through 12th, our first full week of 2025. And just real quick, yesterday I did a blog for the year 2025. So it's like a more of a long-term weather forecast than just looking at the outer planets. Very important one to know about because 3 of the outer planets change signs and 4 of them are aspecting each other all year, and the North Node too. So it's a big year of change. You definitely want to check that blog out if you haven't. You want to go back. Remember, all the blogs are on my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. You go to the blogs tab and you'll see them embedded there. So you can find it there. It's also on the YouTube channel, also on podcasts. Just look up Astrological Winds channel, you'll find it. So anyway, just real briefly, remember the Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog that I'm doing on YouTube channel every week. So if you do have YouTube and you like what you see, please become a follower. And remember to turn your notifications on because you won't know when I'm posting the blog. It won't notify you. And remember, it is available on podcasts. Just look up Astrological Winds channel. It is also available on Instagram under Astrological Winds channel. You can find the link there. And like I said, always on my website, which also has all the information for my professional services. I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years, been doing charts for over 20 years. So if you're an individual looking for some kind of astrological reading, please take a look at my menu. I can work with you on the pricing and stuff. And if you're a group looking for like a workshop, class, lecture, that's also information on my website that's available there. If you're a professional looking for daily or weekly, monthly, more in-depth services, I also offer that. Just get in touch with me. There's my email there also. Contact is also on the website. And I'm also looking for a couple more students. If anyone's interested in that, I'm going to possibly be able to do live classes if we can get a couple more in. So anyway, let's look at this first week of the full week of 2025. And to me, the big story this week is once again Mars retrograde's journey. If you'll remember, back on December 6th was when Mars went retrograde, and it was at 6 degrees of Leo. And ever since then, doesn't it seem like the intensity of the world's events has really like ratcheted up several notches? It really, the destructive power and the resulting transformation and changes have been very, very acutely on display in the world. And right away, and I talked about it on the blog it's probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, that on almost the very day that Mars went retrograde, Syria fell, and Assad, who had been their dictator basically for decades, had to flee the country. And I talked very extensively about how the ancient astrologers would have probably predicted that. But, why Syria got hit, because the Pluto of Syria, which was in the 10th house of the president or leader of the country, was exactly at the Mars retrograde point. So that's how we can determine how certain people, countries, or events or things get more affected by the Mars retrograde. And if you'll remember too, what happened during that whole period of time after President-elect Trump started naming cabinet members, they all, or not all of them, but many of them failed, and they were not able to get. So, like, once again, Mars retrograde, his actions really not well thought out. And then, just what have we had since then too? Multiple terrorist attacks, even in the United States, some very intense ones just this week, as the second Mars Pluto opposition came into occurrence. Now remember, in a retrograde cycle, any aspects that the planet is making as it's coming in it's going to make those aspects as it retrogrades back across them a second time. And then eventually, when it goes direct, it'll hit them a third time. So Mars was opposite Pluto coming in, retrograded back to this opposite hit just yet in the last few days, and boom, major terrorist events happening. And I said, Mars, Pluto, very violent energy. Avoid violent people and places at all costs if you can. This is like the energy of reaching a breaking point. And you can hear that in people's stories all around you individually too. So many people, me having clients, have reached this point of like no return, like what is going to give. And it's obviously a time of very powerful transformation that with Mars and Pluto together in an opposition can be very violent and very turbulent. And we have to be very aware of this, that there's a shadowy energy that's behind this opposition. And people can really feel like they've been victimized at this point and they can lash out. And this can happen on personal levels, or it can happen on bigger levels. And like anybody, who feels like, can be, everyone can be feeling very defensive right now, and people want to control things. And then there's like the opposition shows that there's, an enemy, that there's another side that they're projecting that onto. So that what happens, we get into these huge power struggles, right? And incredible opposing energy to one another. And all of a sudden, there's like, this just violent acts break out, or we're having to defend ourselves. People can get unethical. They can just act so impulsively. They can get ruthless because they're acting so impulsively. So if you decide to take on a battle with someone or something, just be prepared that this is like going to be very explosive energy, and that it will have long-term effects, and that it will likely bring destruction type energy somewhere in, and that will eventually be replaced by something else. That's the transformation. But this is very, very, very intense energy. And then on Monday, Mars slides back into Cancer, where it is super, super weak in the sign of its fall, in the sign, one of the most uncomfortable signs for Mars to be in, if not the most uncomfortable sign for Mars to be in, because Mars is all about acting impulsively, and it does have a lot to do with defending ourselves on a first survival instinctual level. That's what we need to do when our life is threatened or it does not go on. So Mars taps into that raw instinctual drive, right? And when it gets into Cancer, basically Mars feels like all of a sudden it has to take consideration in of the emotions that it's feeling before it can act. So that's what it does not like to do. It does not want to have emotional input have to be factored into a decision-making process. That is something that is very foreign to the way Mars normally will act. And so really when Mars goes into Cancer, literally on a personal level, if we're not feeling good, and when Mars goes into Cancer, we can be feeling very defensive. We can be feeling like we're not getting our needs met. We can be feeling emotionally upset by our family or others. And when that happens, we just don't act. We get passive, we shut down, we get depressed, we fall, we just get into a state of inaction. We can get homeostatic, right? And then with the opposition to Pluto, it's only going to make us feel angry at anyone that we're feeling that way about. And like we can get into those battles again, like, but on a bigger level too, on a national level, it's like this is the energy of feeling really defensive and patriotic. Like we have to keep what's ours. We have to get rid of the immigrants. We have to put up trade barriers. We have to, be like, protect what we have. We have to protect our resources from the rest of the world, from enemies, from people who may want to take it from us. It sets up very defensive posturing, is my point. It sets up on a bigger scale nationalistic tendencies, controlling tendencies, power tripping tendencies, strong arming tendencies, violence, destruction, war. So we have to be very, very careful of this energy. It is just very, very intense. And when it's feeling like its needs are threatened or feeling negative in any way, it's going to either act very defensively or just shut down. Now, when we're feeling good, when Mars is in Cancer, that's when we will act. And that's usually when we feel like we're getting what we need. If not, like I said, we fall into a place of malaise where we're just like really hard to get at. But and then the anger comes in not only from the opposition of Pluto, but on the same day that Mars goes back into Cancer, Monday, today, it also sesquiquadrates Saturn. And this makes us feel like we are just blocked, like the energy that we're trying to put out into the world is stuck right now. And that can be because of other people. It can be because of authorities. It can be because of the institutions. It can just be because of the reality of the way the world is, both socially and around us. And this, it can be extremely frustrating. Feel very upset inside, very irritated and angry at others who we perceive. So once again, this energy adds to that Cancer defensive posturing, to the opposition to Pluto, and it can make people act out. They can once again strike out violently and destructively against any person or structure or institution that they perceive as being part of the problem that's blocking them. So we have to be really, really cautious about what we're doing right now. We have to take things step by step. We have to be conservative if we want to move forward at all. If we want to have any success with our actions at all right now, it has to be very slow and well and thought out. Right now, a lot of our fears are being triggered. Our fears inside with ourselves, our friends around us, our family, our nation, our communities are all feeling like, whoa, the world is changing really quickly. Do we have the things we need? Are we adequate in being able to survive through this? People are not feeling very confident right now about that. And so they can act very defensively. They're ready for a fight. And really, the best way to not only use this energy in the sense of taking things slowly and step by step, but is to confront yourself rather than other people. Now, sadly enough, on the same day, and I didn't put it in, Mercury is also square Neptune, which shows that the mind is confused, that all this stuff is really confusing to the mind and it's not sure what to do. And the bad thing about that is it can get shadowy then. This can make the mind feel like, well, maybe I need to deceive somebody to get what I need. Maybe I need to be a trickster. Maybe I need to act underhanded or something, to get what I need. Or other people are acting that way because they're so desperate, and you can become the victim of them trying to deceive you. A lot of times, this is called information unsaid. It may not be an outright lie or deception, but if we don't tell you certain things, then you may be swayed to think or act or decide or speak in one way, versus if you knew those certain things, you might choose to do something different. So we have to be really, really careful with this energy, because what's going on is that we're seeing a lot of the ideals and values, the things we believe in Neptune, are not working well in the real world. And so we are confused. We're not sure what to do. Our dreams and visions are being let down, is a good way to say it. So don't fall into that trap yourself of then being more secretive or deceptive, because that's just going to add more to the confusion. Obviously, this means this whole beginning of the week is not a good time for business negotiations or deals, because you're probably not getting all the information that you have. It can be very unclear. Things may be being held back. Now, one of the things this does have a natural inclination to do is get like inspired either spiritually or creatively, artistically, with words. So we can do some output there, but we can even take that stuff too far. Like we can use it as a crutch against reality, or an escape clause, or even start to twist the way we look at reality into something that's not really the correct framework, you know? So we have to really be careful with that too. But that is one good way to use this energy, is maybe some spiritual, mystical, psychic study, or just getting into creative output with words. So, stories, writing, fantasy, fictional writing, poetry, rapping, things like that, could be a way to get a little bit of relief. Now, on Tuesday and Wednesday, Mercury, it is going to go into Capricorn on Wednesday, but it does a couple other things first that I wanted to talk about. It quincunxes Mars retrograde, and at the same time is squaring the nodal axis, the north node and the south node. It's right in between them. And what does this indicate again? Lots of frustration with others, feeling like we may even need to separate ourselves from certain others or certain groups, because everybody seems to be hell bent on pushing what they believe in. And they might even have the notion that they might not even be completely correct in what they're doing, but they don't seem to care. People still are just like, no, I'm going to push this, even if there's some weak points in it that they don't want to admit. And they're so busy fighting for our own ideas, fighting about the truth, fighting about the truth. Everybody's fighting about the truth. And you know what? We may be doing that too much, is what all this energy is saying. Let it go. Relax a little bit. Separate yourself from your beliefs a little bit, folks, because this is just creating this very edgy energy where you either, your communications can be very challenging, can be very unfriendly, can be defensive. People are irritable in general. They lash out at other people and, projecting that. And, but at the same time, may not actually be saying what's really on their mind, and they actually even know that, but they somehow can't express that anger or frustration properly. So it gives a very nervous, edgy vibe to the day. And once again, best use of this is to study something that you're really into studying subjectively. But even that can bring you information that can get you triggered and get you edgy and irritable. I mean, this is the energy of like, gosh, I just don't want to be bothered by other people. And if I do, I'm really going to strike out against them and really push, And one of the other things too is that, watch out for falling into negative talking about others too, like talking behind people's back, gossip, that kind of thing. This is that kind of energy where, all of a sudden you're going to find out a lot more people dislike you if you're doing that, or that you've disturbed relationships in a certain like social scene, and it's going to come back to you and just make everything really edgy in that energy. Now, interestingly enough, too, there is a long-term transit going on with one of the asteroids that's exact on Wednesday too, and that is Pluto square Vesta. And to me, this is so fitting again, because once again, what's it bringing up? Pluto, power issues between opposing groups who believe in different morals. Basically, on a Vesta, it really comes down to morals, that people have different things and they're feeling like their power, what they want to do, is blocked, right? And so all of a sudden they can get very destructive in pushing that on large scales. It brings up power issues between opposing groups. Okay, so we really have to be careful of that. Now, on a personal level, we may feel this too with power issues that come through sexuality, or power issues that, all of a sudden are triggering things in our first instinct again, of like a fear of death, a paranoia in general, which can have us very subjective and self-absorbed, and therefore can end up isolating us and feeding all of this wild lone wolf energy again. You can see how so many things right now have built up to a breaking point because of people seeing things in a different way and not being able to accept that, and becoming so frustrated that they impulsively act out on this stuff. Now, on Wednesday, we have a Sun Square Chiron, and that is really interesting because it shows that within us there's a battle going on also, that new information that we're seeing within ourselves that is helping us give a clear picture is not in balance with our personality yet. And so, like, we're kind of out of balance within ourselves. We're kind of feeling edgy and kind of almost maybe challenging ourselves, but that also hasn't come in balance with the way we relate to others yet. So, we can have some really challenging relationship issues come up too, where we can feel hurt by other people, because these new things haven't really been integrated yet. But with the right attitude, that's what we want to do. We want to work on the healing process of getting those new things integrated. Now, this is the day Mercury goes into Capricorn too. And when Mercury goes into Capricorn, decision making slows down. We want to make sure before we make a decision that we have all the correct information, that we have all the facts straight, and we want to make sure that it's based on knowledge that we have from the past, wisdom that we have from the past. So this is really good time for organizing things, especially businesses. If you guys have like new business plans you're doing, this is the time to really, put the sleeves up and really organize those things, make the plans, take the steps that you have to do in order to do that. We have a very practical, conservative outlook right now. The mind and the intellect wants to see results. Okay, it wants to see results in the real world from the things we're doing. So it's a serious attitude. Although, that being said, Mercury in Capricorn can see the irony in things, and when it needs a humor valve, can use that irony to let off some of that seriousness. So we'll have about 3 weeks of Mercury in Capricorn. So the rest of this month is an excellent month to organize and plan business plans, things like that. This is the time you really want to do it, and then start getting all those things down on paper or computer, and start doing the first steps that might not be like boom out there externally in the world yet, but you're already working on it, right? You're already working on it. So, and then comes Sunday, and on Sunday we have 2 more Mars retrograde transits, much better than early in the week. In fact, I think next weekend will be the nicest part of this week. Mars retrograde is going to try Neptune at the same time, semi-square Jupiter, and both Neptune and Jupiter are very similar in energy. So this can bring some relief to the intense energy that we're going through, and most likely through some kind of spiritual journey or study or actions, stuff like yoga, meditation, contemplation, prayer, or slow moving releases of energy physically, like Tai Chi, like swimming, just like walking, even walking in nature. The imagination is very stimulated under this energy, and we can find beauty in the world on the weekend. And exposing ourselves to nature, beautiful places, or art, it's another thing to expose ourselves to. It can expand our consciousness and really appeal to our ideals and help our values grow, help our consciousness grow, help ourselves evolutionize, maybe like bring in deeper inspiration. And this is a time when you can connect with others really well too, talking about your hopes and dreams and visions and plans, both solo or together. It can be very inspiring for both people involved, so it's also a day, Mars, if you want to work, take action, which, like I said, it can be more chill. It's a time when a lot of times we want to help other people out, so charitable works on this weekend is really good, Habitat for Humanity, whatever it may be, things that you can do that are not overly demanding, but that can help other people. And also, like I said, once again, this Mars Neptune can tap into that energy of creativity with words, like the Mars square Neptune. I mean, like the Mercury square Neptune on Monday. So, like storytelling, poetry, all kinds of creative ways of using words, mythology, things like that are all going to be very interesting things that we can pick up. Um, Information from that can help us grow and adjust and transform. So, a really good weekend after a kind of challenging week. But, like, we're really going to want to use this Mercury in Capricorn and Sun in Capricorn energy to really focus in on this practical stuff, especially while we're all going through these very tumultuous times of change on personal to societal levels, on all kinds of things, like economy, relationships, nationality. There's so many things changing around us right now, so this will be some really, the Capricorn energy can help us kind of like in an austere time find the wisdom and information we need and make a plan, and start to see some of the results of that. And they may be little things at first, but like then we can start to like, build on that. Just like I said, with the Mars energy right now, step by step, slow, don't get too impulsive. Make sure you have the information or you're going to get hurt somehow. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. This is a free video blog that I do on YouTube every week. I would really like it if you'd become a follower, especially if you have a YouTube account. Obviously, you can if you don't have a YouTube account, but don't forget to turn on your notifications, though, so you know when the blog comes out. Also, if you're not into the video, which I understand, free yourself and listen to it on podcasts. There's many podcasts that pick it up out there. Just look up Astrological Winds channel. Then you can, be listening to it while you're driving to work or working out at the gym or whatever, take walking the dog. It's also Astrological Winds channel. I do post the link on Instagram. I've got my own Astrological Winds channel page there. Please become a follower. Sometimes I put extra information on there too. And then also always on the website, www.astrologicalwinds, not Winds channel, winds.com, has all the blogs from the past few months there. And most importantly, the one you didn't see yet that I put up a day or two ago on 2025 is there. You want to see that. It also has all the information on the professional services I give. I am a professional astrologer, was trained for 7 years, went through schooling, testing, have had many, many clients over 20 years, many magical experiences. Your chart never leaves you. A computer and a book or a friend who knows a little about astrology is not the same as getting it from a professional astrologer. It's like buying a brand new pair of pants versus buying a pair of pants in the secondhand store, right? And so, the difference between this and pants, though, is your chart is always with you your whole life. So you really should know it deeply, especially if you're watching this channel, because that means you have some interest. So get in touch with me. I can work with you. If you got a group that's looking for some kind of astrological event, same thing, get in touch with me. We can do that. Can even be done on computer, right? We can even do classes and lectures on computer. So, and then also, if you're a student or someone that wants to learn more, I've got a couple folks who would like to start a live class. I do have podcast class available, recordings, and I do tutoring too. But if I get a couple more folks involved, we can maybe do a live class 2, 3, 4 times a month, and really get into stuff. So all that stuff. MATTHUE823 at gmail.com, www.astrologicalwinds.com. Also, if you'd like to give a donation to the blog, my Cash App is $Matthew with two T's, Lawton, Lauten, Venmo at Matthew hyphen Lawton. Any amount you give is not too small. I really appreciate all of you guys. All right. Big year of change ahead. Very intense times right now with Mars retrograde. That is going to be retrograde until February 23rd, going to be in shadow until early May. So we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of challenging times ahead, and a lot of like what we're going to see is defensive posturing continue. So how we react to that can really dictate how a lot of this stuff will go for us in the future. Okay, next week we've got a full moon on Monday at 24 degrees Cancer. So get ready for that. That's going to be some big, well, probably the biggest event of the week, really. In all honesty, you guys, and the sun is also going to change signs next week and go into Aquarius as we're going to go into the middle of the winter in the northern hemisphere in the summer in the southern hemisphere. Okay, until next week, I will see you all. This is Matt Lawton in the Astrological Winds channel, signing off.